ITP 263, Task 7, Assignment 3, Child Negligence.
Good morning, Ray. I'm so glad you could come in this morning for the interview. As administrator of this school, I'm interested in your perspective on child abuse and neglect. I see in your resume here that you took a course in college on this subject. Could you share some of your views on this topic with me this morning?
Yeah, there's a lot of important things to know about child abuse and just abuse in general, and the different types there are. There are four main types. So it's important about understanding what's illegal and what is forbidden, and especially in a school, and knowing that growing up is very important. So for children, knowing what's wrong and also understanding different socioeconomic standpoints. Long hair, if people's shoes are untied, that's wrong. It's good to help improve their parents for the future.
Good. Well, let's talk about some of those early clues or things that we can be looking for in the classroom. As a teacher in the classroom, could you tell me just one or two signs that you would find for emotional neglect, for instance? What were some things you might be looking for as a teacher?
Okay. Let me think about that for a moment. Judging by children's faces will be the first one. The one is if they're acting up, if they don't show signs of good development. Offering different types of help and not seeing that improvement would be another one.
What are some of the physical cues that you might look for? For instance, sucking their thumb, some of those kind of things. What might you be watching for?
Judging if the kids are rocking back and forth in their chair and they can't sit still, or if they're mean to other kids. That's something that I have to help with to help them get that out of their system, or it leads to more emotional development.
Good. I know that I've had situations in my classroom when I was teaching where I found a child was withdrawn from their peers. Oftentimes I would find them over by themselves at their desks, chewing on their fingernails. What kind of things do you think you could do then to cue me as the administrator that that's happening? What would you do if you saw those types of behavior in your classroom?
So for children who are isolated, it's just a matter of approaching them and making sure we can communicate effectively with them, making sure that there's honest communication and not lies. They feel that they can come to us, and we can work together to make sure that the children are happy and feel safe.
I've thought about this as a child growing up deaf. Did you ever feel isolated? Did you have people watching you thinking perhaps you were neglected? It seems like that could be one of the areas that would show up in some of our children who perhaps are having a difficulty communicating with others in their environment. How do you feel about that?
Judging from my own childhood and other deaf child experiences that I've heard about, all of us together, it's as a deaf community, it's important to make sure that we all can communicate. But that's something that I've learned through either signing or a form of communication. It's better to at least try. You have to try.
Good. Well, if it's okay, I'd like to also talk about some of the areas of physical neglect And I know that you talked about that in your class. For instance, what would be some of the physical indicators for you if a child came to school consistently poorly dressed, that kind of thing? What other indicators would you look for of physical neglect or abuse from the home?
It's hard to say. So that's just thinking about either a mean attitude or the clothes that they wear, or maybe talking to their parents and seeing what's wrong, sympathizing with the child, making sure that they don't feel like they have so many eyes on them, but just offering help and maybe doing a home visit and seeing if there's alcohol involved with the parents, it's too much, or seeing if they're overly cruel, seeing if there's any other signs, and then offering help to those parents to highlight their child's future and give them a few warnings of what could happen and bring some positive changes.
What about conferencing with the parents? How do you feel you could approach that? If you saw, for instance, a child who came to school hungry, or you began to detect malnourishment, a child that didn't have energy to participate, those kind of things, how do you feel you could approach that in your classroom?
First, recognizing that children they have a hard time. Just thinking about the right health, and if they are slow and they're going a little slowly, then possibly talking to their parents, maybe doing a visit. There's also the possibility that maybe they're just having a hard time. But if it's every single time and there's constant neglect, then that's when you can step in with the parents and say, hey, it's time to make sure you have your child well fed. It's important to remind them breakfast, lunch, dinner are 3 important meals that you need to have 3 times a day.
Well, that sounds very helpful. I know that our school does have a reduced meal program, the cost for hot meals here at the facility. Perhaps one thing you could also suggest to them is that they look into getting their child on a program at the school. There's a variety of things that I feel I can do as an administrator in this school and as a teacher to help a child have a positive school experience. And so I was just hoping today that we would have a chance to just see how well we can do in our facility to facilitate the best possible learning environment. I was also thinking about how we might talk to parents and bring them into our work with the child. Can you think of other things that you could possibly do as the teacher in regards to physical or emotional neglect from the home?
Yeah, sure. So you can always touch base with the children and see that there's no worry about their home, or ask them questions about their home, make sure that they feel safe, make sure that they have food, ask questions about their food storage, or have maybe sending an assignment home with the kids about home economics and saying, what do you have in your pantry? What kind of things do you need, and get your parents to help you, and seeing that list and seeing if there's any other children or any other parents who are possibly using drugs or selling drugs for food. You can see those from a couple of those opportunities. making sure that we move the children from those parents who are abusing drugs. Make sure it's not food.
Right. You're right, Ray. It seems to me that a lot of the children that we find that have gone through physical or emotional neglect come from single-parent families or perhaps low-income families. But I've also found out over the years of working with children that oftentimes neglect can occur in homes where there are both parents. Perhaps they're both working. There's other kinds of neglect, and I think that we shouldn't just stereotype and think that it's just going to be the low income or those who seem to be in poverty conditions. I have detected neglect in the other types of environments also. What type of emotional neglect do you think could come about in a family situation where both parents, for instance, are working and are out of the home?
Well, if both parents are working, it leaves an opportunity for the children to be responsible for themselves or to take care of themselves. They might not have the structure that the parents provide, and that includes feeding and regularly scheduled events that need to happen. I'm not sure different kinds of things that need, but especially with parents and feeding schedule, that's one of the most important things.
I know that I have dealt with parents in the past who are workaholics, and they assume because they are caring for the physical needs of the child that the emotional needs are also being met. And I think as teachers, we need to constantly be able to watch for neglect in the emotional arena for children who may have all the physical needs met, but emotionally are starved for affection and attention and time giving from their caretakers. Right.
Yeah, that's right. I definitely agree with that. A lot of parents will work, and then they go home, and then they leave out, they go out to a date or whatever, leave their kids at home and say, you're on your own. And it's important to go home and spend time with your children and encourage that they spend time with their friends. And we don't want the kids feeling sad or bored or scared and all night not knowing what their needs are.
Well, I really appreciate, Ray, what appears to me that you have looked at the whole gamut of child abuse and neglect. And I think that it will be good if we do indeed offer you a position on our staff, that you could come to us with some good qualifications that would help us in detecting these things in the classroom. I appreciate the time that you've spent with me today. I think that's been profitable for both of us, and I do look forward to spending more time with you in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And what I'll be doing is I will be going through some more resumes, and I'll be getting in touch with you. I would say in the next couple of days. Will you be in the area so I can contact you? Good.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate, again, as I said, that you came in today and took the time to talk with me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you as well.